Are you a nuclear engineer looking for an explosive job in a fast-paced career with lots of positions unexpectedly opening up? You are! Goody goody! Do I have the opportunity of a lifetime for you? Yes, I do! Iran is currently looking for people like you with experience building nuclear devices to fill positions in our ranks that were recently opened up for reasons. The ideal candidate will have these qualifitions: a PhD in nuclear stuff, experience working with rockets or another nuclear device, really, because we're not very picky there, interpersonal communication skills, desire to kill the Jews, and Microsoft Excel. If this is you, oh my Allah! Yeah. Such a fun team here. We're not like co-workers. We're like, like family. Family who share a desire to kill the Jews. If you join our team, uranium isn't the only thing that will be going to be enriched. You will too, my brother. So let's take a look at the benefits, shall we? Okay. Job benefits include money, probably flexible 120-hour work weeks, hefty workers' comp plan including 72 virgins should you die on the job, a ping pong table in the break room. We're basically Google guys. Company camo, you get to kill the Jews. Wow, what an exciting proposition. Am I right? Yes, I am. My mind is blown. So apply today by calling 1-800-KILL-THE-JEWS and you can be part of our exciting, fast-paced team with lots of turnover for reasons. Apply today, my friend, but don't wait. This job is the bomb.
Job offer subject to availability. Participant must submit to drug screening, background check, and Obama law. Offer not available in Delaware. Must be legally eligible to work and capable of building nuclear weapons. Waiver prohibited. Operators are standing by. Iran is an equal opportunity employer. Except we don't hire Jews or gays, and especially not gay Jews.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Vostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. The Big Beautiful Bill by the gracious and beautiful Carrie Sheffield. Is a Nobel Peace Prize in the future? Jacob Olidort weighs in. A Faith Under Siege, a new film. And what exactly kind of energy has saved lives? Ed Kovalik is here. A Simon Desk Weekend sketch comedy and music for your weekend this holiday season. And now from Times Square, where the only thing bigger than the fireworks this year is Trump's big, beautiful bill and the size of the Pizza Rat takeout boxes, here's Happy birthday, America. It is 2:49, and we've just kicked off the 250th year. The president doing that this weekend in Iowa after the incredible congressional win that Mike Johnson delivered like a knockout blow on Thursday afternoon. And then, of course, the signing on the holiday. And then here we are in the year 250. We are in the 250th year of our great experiment known as America. And it is an incredible reality to think that we have been here this long. This is why I wrote about it at townhall.com. Happy birthday, 249. Who would have thought 249 July 4ths ago, July 5th, July 6th, that you would have had a bunch of ragtag farmers and merchants and clergy and not professionally trained soldiers, most of them, taking up arms and saying to the most powerful planet, the country on the planet, you will not govern us without representation. Not abuse our rights without our say. we will have a voice in the determination of our future. That had never been done before. And the great American experiment, 249 going on 250 years later now, is thoroughly underway. And it's just really incredible. So we're going to celebrate all weekend. We've got Lee Greenwood here with the men and women of the armed forces in their vocal ensembles and band. I forget what they call the vocal group, but they're going to join Lee Greenwood this hour. And then in the next hour, she's never been on the show. Pia Toscano is here with a just simply drop dead, stop what you're doing, listen to it as she sings it version of God Bless America to go out with on this very special July 4th Independence Weekend edition of That Kevin Show. Now, I've got something that I'm kind of excited about. We are doing something that we've never done before at this show, and I'm very, very excited. Would you like your chance to win a hotel and airfare paid for, $500 Visa card thrown in trip to New York City? We're going to give you 3 nights in one of our wonderful hotels here, and you know that I write That Passport Life. I know how to pick the hotels. We're going to give you airfare, and we're going to also tack on $500 Visa card with all that for you to come enjoy New York City and to have dinner with me. Come and meet me. I want to say thank you to you for watching, for listening, for doing all that you do. And all you have to do to sign up for your chance to win is go to thatkevinshow.com and click the link that takes you there. Come and meet me. You can also do it on all of my social media because it's posted everywhere. But come to the link there, enter your info, and then be listening around August 17th. There will be a drawing for this, and you can enter every single day. And the more you enter, the greater your chances of winning. And you can actually get extra chances at winning. So this is not a one time only opportunity. You can register literally every single day and increase your chance of being the one that wins the trip and get to come to New York City, meet me, have dinner with me. Stay in our lovely, beautiful city. I think it's the greatest city on the planet. 3 nights. Going to pick up the tab for that. Airfare. I'm going to pick up the tab for that. You and a guest. $500 Visa card. You're going to enjoy New York like very few get to. And I wish that you would do that. Go to thatkevinshow.com to register, or any of my social media. That Kevin Show on Instagram, That Kevin Show on Twitter, That Kevin Show on Facebook. It'll get you to all those places. All right. Just a couple of thoughts. When Hakeem Jeffries on Thursday was doing his 8.5-hour filibuster speech, nearly everything the man said about the big, beautiful bill that got passed that afternoon, and is now the law, was not true. And I really want to drive this home for those of you that are somewhat confused about the discussions you're going to hear about this weekend. Because there's going to be people that are going to be upset and say, well, all those things that Mr. Jeffries said, they're not true. He said that families that are on Medicaid and welfare are going to have a tougher time, the SNAP program. Actually, the big, beautiful bill reforms the Medicare and the SNAP programs to make it better. It also reforms the programs to take fraud out of the system. So if there's someone that's receiving those monies that should not be, they're going to get rid of those, and they're going to have those monies then available for people that genuinely need them. That's a good thing. We don't want to be wasteful. We want to be conscientious. But in addition to that, the big, beautiful bill, part of the beauty of it is it's going to unleash American energy. We're going to talk with Ed Kovalik on this edition. We're going to supply more of not only our own energy, but the world's energy, and that's going to bring cost down for everybody. But in addition to that, the tax incentives and the small business incentives that have been put into this bill, permanently keeping in place the Trump tax cuts, so that, for instance, your child tax credit doesn't get cut in half in a couple of days, which is what it would have done if this had not been passed. Your child tax credit would have been half of what it's now going to be because of that. These types of things are all in there. And what happens when you do massive tax cuts and incentives for small business and things like no tax on tips? You encourage entrepreneurialism. Entrepreneurialism that grows kickstarts an economy unlike anything else. When people open small businesses, that's a sign that the economy is very, very healthy, because everyone's saying, hey, I want to have a chance at hanging my shingle up and making a difference in this world. When you have lots of control and lots of regulation and lots of interference from government, the temptation to want to do that tends to be reduced. The big, beautiful bill unleashes it, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. All right, stick around. We have got a huge show for you. Lee Greenwood, the U.S. Armed Forces, Pia Toscano, all here to help us celebrate. Happy birthday, America, number 249. Couldn't be better.
McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show. ThatKevinShow.com for all things related. Social media, email, newsletters, podcasts, TV shows, everything. It's all there. Just go see it. ThatKevinShow.com. Okay, the big story, the big win going into the holiday. The president wanted to get the big, beautiful bill. Yes, there were some holdouts last minute in the House. There were some Chip Roys doing the things that Chip Roy does. And I'm not totally against it. It's just with all that we have learned about this bill over the last number of months, I am very, very confident that this is a good move for the country. I'm eager to see what my next guest has to say. Carrie Sheffield is a senior contributor to the Independent Women's Forum, researcher, Wall Street retiree. She does all of it. She knows the money. She knows the social issues. She's a committed believer in Jesus. We're so thankful for everything that she's done. But Carrie, as you watch this come down the stretch, what were your thoughts? I mean, especially with Hakeem going on and on and on for how many hours on Thursday to get it done?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I agree with you, Kevin. This is a big win. I agree with the title of the bill. It is a one big, beautiful bill. There's so many great aspects of this bill. Most importantly, the tax reform and really extending and building upon the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the Trump tax cuts from 2017. So, for example, the Americans for Tax Reform, they pointed out that if nothing were to happen, 90% of tax filers, so 90% of taxpayers, would see their standard deduction cut in half. Which would mean they would pay a lot more in taxes, right. 90% of people. So 40 million families would see their current child tax credit cut in half. A family of four earning $80,000 on average.
Wait a second, Carrie. I heard Hakeem Jeffries tell me for 5.5 hours on Thursday morning, or however long it was going, it seemed like 200,000 hours. But he was making all these sad statements about people that were going to lose SNAP and early breakfast and Medicaid and all this stuff. And when you look at the impact that this thing is going to have, particularly on black families, particularly on inner city families that are below certain thresholds in terms of income, how can you make the statement that this is going to hurt the very people that I think it's going to boost?
Hakeem was completely ahistorical and divorced from any, these policies are not happening in a vacuum.
Correct.
But even in the 90s with the bipartisan welfare reform, which, by the way, someone recently pointed out to me, the only reason Bill Clinton came around on that is because he was very against it, is because he was basically forced to by the Republicans.
It was called midterms.
I believe Newt Gingrich. Yeah, he had tried, I think he'd vetoed it twice before, and it was Republicans who, anyway. But after this major welfare reform of the 90s, guess what? Childhood poverty plummeted. The single mother poverty plummeted because it included work requirements. And so it's actually going to lift people out of poverty. It's going to do the exact opposite. And we saw this, again, not happening in a vacuum. This also happened after the 2017 tax bill. By 2019, Trump presided over record income, household wealth levels for women, Asian, Black Americans, all of these groups that the left loves to claim they care to speak for. They saw their welfare improving just at record levels monetarily under this tax reform from 2017. So everything this Hakeem Jeffries was saying it's totally backwards. And I will also point out that without the reforms, more than 26 million small business owners are going to be hit with a 43.4% tax rate. So when you're talking about small businesses, which is they're the backbone of our economy, this bill is great for them. And it's called One Big Beautiful Bill because it not only does the tax reform, it also has border security, and then it also has getting rid of the corrupt Joe Biden green era subsidies.
I was about to say energy. We're going to drill. We're going to sell it. We're going to promote it. We're going to completely transform the world geopolitical stage because we're going to have the upper hand and leverage in talking about how other countries get their energy. Carrie, we have never been in this position before. Not in the modern era, not in my lifetime.
I mean, it was shocking to me, and yet in some ways not shocking, how Biden was so willing, or the people around him, they were willing to work with Venezuela, which is, a repressive regime. Rather than unleashing domestic energy producers, they'd rather loosen sanctions against Venezuela and get more energy supply from foreign dictators rather than domestic energy producers in his own country. It's mind-blowing.
Well, and even for his greenies, if you compare the quality of the drilling that Venezuela does compared to the quality of the drilling that, like my friends at Prairie Operating Company are doing in the DJ Basin in Colorado. Colorado's not a conservative, super like just let it all go kind of state. They have all kinds of environmental requirements, but we are producing the cleanest molecule of hydrocarbon, the U.S. is, of all countries on the planet. And he was willing to say, oh, let's let the dirty oil from Venezuela go out there and pollute the so even from an environmental standpoint, we've never been in a situation where we've been right now. And it's like all of the things are lined up. All we have to do is get this bill in place, and America is going to become a different, wildly wonderful country.
Yeah, and that's something that Trump has been hammering over and over is the growth. So there are lots of disputes about the projections from the bean counters over at the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, and they're putting out all these wild projections of how horrible this bill would be for our economy. But it ignores what they call the
static forward.
Exactly. Yeah. So they use static budget scoring versus dynamic scoring. Dynamic scoring is adjusting your inputs based on the growth that occurs. And look, it's not even just this bill, as wonderful as this bill is. Trump has it's incredible. And I encourage every listener or viewer here, check it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. What Trump has unleashed with his deregulatory agenda is amazing because he's required any federal agency that wants to put a new regulation must repeal 10. So a 1-to-10 ratio of more freedom for every one fetter that they want to put down. And he did, basically the same thing in his first term. And again, that's when we saw this amazing growth. Yeah. So the problem in Washington is not a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And that's another good thing about this bill is that it includes $1.6 trillion in cuts projection because you're talking about the Medicaid, again, work requirements, because you have millions of people who are able-bodied without children that are either refusing to work or even look for work. And they are receiving Medicaid benefits. And the overwhelming amount of people, when you look at polling on that issue, they don't like that. Taxpayers don't want people getting. Well, and of course, that never made it into
Hakeem's, filibuster on Thursday. But the interesting thing about this is you're going to move people into the work arena. They're going to succeed. They're going to have more incentives to succeed than they've ever had before. Small businesses are going to have more incentives to come back into exploration and expansion and all this stuff because they've been told for the last 4 years it's scary for you to do that. Gig workers are going to be able to work without fear of having
Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough. I've got some exciting news for you. If you're trying to help us with our CSI, Christian Solidarity International campaign, right now would be a fantastic time to participate because we are issuing for this show. If we can have 10 of you go and help us liberate one slave each. I don't need you to do 10 by yourself, although if you can, that will satisfy what I'm about to tell you. But what I would love for you to do is to say, I could do one of 10 for a $250 one-time gift, liberate one human life so that that woman is liberated. And sometimes we're able to liberate her child with her. In these last 2 or 3 years, we've had that opportunity more and more. Would love for you to participate in that because we have a 10 for 10 challenge. If 10 slaves can be liberated in this edition of the show, a single donor is going to come along and say, yes, we will take care of 10 as well. 888-342-1010 is the number, 888-342-1010. You may be scratching your head saying, Kevin, what do you mean liberate slaves? Slaves don't exist in America anymore. Well, you'd be surprised. Sex trafficking does happen, but that's not what this is about. This is about actual chattel slavery, just like in old Europe and old U.S. This is happening in Africa, and we are in the process of liberating tens of thousands of slaves. We have been for the last number of years, and with your help, we can liberate another 208 this year. The way it works is Christian Solidarity International has people that go in and negotiate the freedom of these women who have been largely taken as prisoners of war. Their negotiation is secured. When that happens, they return to South Sudan, where they were originally taken from, and from there, we are able to bless them with everything they need to start their life over again. A sack of grain to plant for 2 seasons worth of food from now. An entire year's worth of food also goes along with that. They get utensils to cook and clean and fish and conduct life with. They receive tarps and blankets and other things to help protect them from weather situations. They receive a she-goat, which allows them to have milk and create cheese and do all that kind of good stuff, and even create a little bit of enterprise for them so that they can support themselves. It's a beautiful program. If you would like to know more, please go to bringherhome.org, bringherhome.org. But there are 208 that need us to help them be liberated this year. So far, 51 have taken the challenge and said, yes, we will liberate those. If we could meet this 10 for 10 challenge, that would be another 20 that we took care of just this weekend. Would you help us? 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010.
My name is Nanya Newt. I was about 15 years old when I was captured. My mom had spent the last few days teaching me all about what it meant to be a good wife and a mom, showing me how to cook and sew. She had hoped I would get married in the future. One day I was out collecting firewood, and that was when the Arabs found me and captured me and took me to Sudan without the chance to tell my family goodbye. It took me many days to walk the complete journey. They gave us boiled sorghum as we went, and the men that had been captured with us faced grave dangers. They were considered to be spies, and most of them were killed right in front of us. Upon arrival in the north, I was sold to a master in Miriam village, and then I was sold almost as quickly to another Arab in McCullough. He made me work for his family, sweeping the compound and washing the dishes. They worked me long and terrible hours, pounding sorghum, fetching water. And then they said, in order to be a good Muslim woman, I would need to be circumcised. I was held down as it happened, and then I was forced to marry. Against my will, they forced me to work even when I was sick. And if I did anything that made them angry, they would beat me. My master never bought me any clothes, never paid me for any of my work, and barely ever fed me. Then one day I heard about a CSI retriever, and I ran to find them in the town. As it turned out, they were freeing slaves in my region, and they had not known about me. But I think God allowed me to find them because they brought me home. We walked that same journey back to South Sudan. And today I thank God because I am free. I thank the Arab Retriever because he helped. I thank CSI and for those who gave. I cannot thank those of you who gave money to help us become free ever enough in all of my life. But I do hope that my prayer is answered, that we will not stop until they are all free.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, couldn't be happier than to have you with us. And as we are continuing to press on in the days kind of post the most recent flare-up between Israel and Iran, a lot of questions are being asked about America's foreign policy and what are we actually doing. When you look at the number of little skirmishes and battles and wars and so forth that Donald Trump has already helped solve, he hasn't even been in office a year. But in just the last few weeks, it isn't just Israel and Iran that he got to affect a ceasefire, but a couple of other hot spots as well. And what does all of that add up to? Let's turn to America First Policy Institute, Jacob Olidort, who follows national policy and national security and foreign affairs for them. Jacob, the win in Iran is big because if we've neutralized the world's biggest, threat via their nuclear program, particularly for the welfare of our ally, but also for our own welfare. That's huge. But to get Israel and Iran to lay down their fighting just, a day or so later, that's also enormous. But that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what this president is doing in terms of trying to affect global peace. Give us just a nutshell of some of the other stuff that he's done.
Absolutely. It's great always to be with you, Kevin. Last week was a breakneck speed of different successes by the president. You had obviously the ceasefire between Israel and Iran, but then, of course, the next day the president was in Brussels at the NATO summit meeting and got all members to commit to 5% of their GDP. That, of course, reflecting today's reality and the threat landscape today in the world. And then capping off the week on Friday with a historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. After decades of fighting, you had the Rwandan foreign minister praising President Trump and giving him credit really for making this possible. That's not in the headlines, but just kind of a snapshot into 1 week in this presidency. It's really breathtaking how much success he's had.
Yeah. Well, a couple of weeks before, you had India and Pakistan that had been at each other's throats and had actually started a small war that nobody was really covering. But he brought that to a conclusion.
That's right, exactly. And, I think this reflects a broader vision for the world, which has been lacking, I think, for numerous administrations that we've had just now. I mean, it's leadership on the world stage, it's engagement deeply with different sides, trying to understand what the way forward is. I think we're going to see a peace agreement with Ukraine very soon as well. I think Putin is reading the tea leaves and seeing how President Trump is operating, and he knows that this is now his time to end that war. So I think this is a breath of fresh air for our partners, but also I think a wake-up call for our adversaries as well.
Well, and that's ultimately what it has to be, right? I mean, just to talk nice to our friends and to have them happy with us is only one side of the equation. Really, to have the world be at peace, you have to notify bad guys that bad behavior will be dealt with. And I don't think we can underestimate what a shock it was to Xi or to Putin that we had, 7 B-2 bombers over Tehran without even being noticed, dropping bunker busters, 200, 300, 400 feet deep into the earth and gone before the rest of the world knew we'd ever been there. I mean, if you're thinking about, being, malware against the United States, you've got to always do risk, assessment and management, and to just, let people know that we can be over our enemy's capital, and they'll never know it. And in a much scarier scenario, those could have been nukes instead of, bunker busters, and we would have been able to settle the score completely. This is my point. He's using strength in such a way that it demands respect from all parties observing, and that sends the ultimate message to the bad guys as much as anything.
Absolutely. The last week I've been using this phrase over and over again. This is the president acting in his role as peacemaker in the world. I mean, dropping those 12 bombs in those nuclear sites, that wasn't just a completely neutering effort on the Iranian regime, but it was a direct message against the Russians and the Chinese as well. Russia, of course, is a main consumer of Iranian weaponry, and China is helping Iran build those ballistic missiles. And as you said, I think neither expected the president to take that action, but it was a direct wake-up call to both of them as well. And I think we'll be seeing more of that type of effort surgically, not opening wars, but using military power as other forms of power to end wars, to send message to adversaries, as you said, that bad behavior will not go unaccounted for.
Well, his preference has always been to talk economics, to talk engagement of economic interest, to talk about alliances of economic mutual benefit. The last thing the president wants to, and this is what was making the weekend of the Iran attack so hilarious, is that all these Democrats ran out kind of thinking they were living in the Bush era, I guess. I don't know what they were thinking, but they're like, he's starting an endless war. And no, it's pretty much done. And in fact, when it wasn't done and the two sides kind of got nasty with each other afterwards, he went out and cursed at him on global television and said, stop it. It's like a dad with the 2 teenage sons that he's having to separate and send to their rooms. Like, he doesn't want to do that. That's not right. What he wants America to be. He wants alliances. He wants economic interests being married. And I think ultimately that's how Ukraine ends, with a stronger alliance with the U.S. on an economic basis. And right. Putin's going to have to figure out what he wants out of life beyond that.
That's right. No, I think that's exactly it. And look, what Democrats also forget, and all the critics, is that there's only one decision maker here. There's one executive, and that is the President of the United States. It's his decision alone, constitutionally, when he uses military, economic, which other tools of power. That is not a declaration of war. It's not anything but his constitutional right to do that on behalf of the American people and world peace, which we've seen the president do. And I think you're right. That analogy of the parent and kids trying to stop them from money. Look, whatever it takes. But peace will happen, and he's going to make sure of it. And he continues to offer the diplomatic approach. Yeah. But some don't want to use diplomacy. So
where do you think this puts Putin and Xi at this present stage? What are they thinking? I mean, they had moved closer together during the Biden presidency. The goal of Trump was always to try to keep them separated. Where are they at right now?
Well, no, it's a great question, and they're different actors in one respect. Putin's already in the middle of his war. They're both trying to probe and see what the limits are for the United States. Obviously, those limits were pretty far under the Biden administration. I think right now they're on alert.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin.
Donald, what was the point of Doge saving money if the big beautiful bill increases the deficit? I thought we were going to cut spending except for Tesla and SpaceX. I feel like I don't know you anymore. Remember when we did business together in the Lincoln bedroom? You said you love me. Elon, I'm a businessman. You're not the only billionaire I did business with in the Lincoln bedroom. But this was different, Donald. The way you did business with me. It made me feel like I was the only businessman in the world. Sometimes it's just business, Elon. What happened to the man I did business with in that Wendy's restroom? Did you even drive the Cybertruck I gave you? Did you really think I wanted that gay trapezoid? How dare you? You would have never been elected without me. Oh, you want to go there? JD? Yes, Donald? Write this post on X for me. Elon's gone crazy. He told me in private that he takes ketamine. Also, the Cybertruck is a car for gay robots. Cybertruck is not a gay car, and you know it. In that case, Cybertruck is so gay, even Don Lemon won't drive one. Fine. JD, post this on X for me. A certain MAGA guy is on the Epstein list, and that's why it's not being released. Okay, that's it. Oh, Donald, we're over. Wait, Elon. Oh, damn it. Donald, I know it's not my place, but don't you think that Elon is right about the money? I mean, maybe the government shouldn't be spending until we're $40 trillion in debt, whittly screwing every American in the future. Maybe you're right, JD, but it's a really funny goof. I know it seems hard, Elon, but it'll work out if you truly love each other. I just don't recognize him anymore, yeah. We were going to save Americans money except for Tesla and SpaceX. You know what? I just need to start my own political party. Yeah, that's it. I'll call it the Big American Balls Party.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Votes.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, The Faith Under Siege, a new film. And exactly what kind of energy has saved lives at Kovalik. Assignment Desk Weekend, sketch comedy from Al Berry and the Babylon Bee. And Pia Toscano debuts in the Spotlight. And now from Times Square, where Independence Day meets real freedom, thanks to a big, beautiful bill that even the pizza rats are celebrating. Here's the cover!
For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. Well, buckle up, folks, because it's America's birthday, and nothing screams America first like a bacon-wrapped Twinkie on a pork chop stick served up at the Iowa State Fair. That's not a meal, it's a congressional spending metaphor. Speaking of which, President Trump signed what he lovingly called a big, beautiful bill into law on the holiday, which, like most things in Washington, is crammed full of enough calories to choke an accountant. Meanwhile, Democrats were caught flat-footed when Hakeem Jeffries was delayed on the vote because of an 8-hour speech, and he didn't send so much as a courtesy text. That's right, in a shocking twist, the party that can't define woman also struggles to define calendar or magic minute. In New York City, the gift that keeps on ungoverning, Zoran Mamdani, is running for mayor. You may remember him as the assemblyman who identified as both black and Asian when applying for Columbia. This man, whose DNA most likely read chickpea, 42%, and Marxist. Now, while the right spent July 4th grilling hamburgers and pledging allegiance to flags and going to parades, the left was reportedly busy setting off firecrackers in protest of fireworks. At one rally, protesters chanted, "Down with colonialism," literally while holding and lighting sparklers that read, "Made in China." But that's not all, and it's not all bad. Congress did manage somehow to pass that incredible, big, beautiful bill. Experts say it's the first time since 1996 that Capitol Hill did something for the American people instead of to them. And finally, in honor of Independence Day weekend, let's remember the core values that made America great: freedom, self-reliance, and the inalienable right to cover anything anything in bacon. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court limited the ability of federal judges to file nationwide injunctions. In a brave dissenting opinion, which is sure to influence legal precedent for decades to come, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson simply wrote, "Wakanda forever." The case reached the Supreme Court after several instances of federal judges attempting to overturn executive actions taken by the executive branch. Justice Jackson's dissent contrasts President Trump's overreaching monarchical aspirations with the utopian democratic society of Wakanda. For an in-depth analysis, we go to law analyst Victor Law. Victor, people are comparing Ketanji Brown Jackson to Rosa Parks. In your legal opinion, is this a fair comparison or a very fair comparison? Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know about any of that, but let me just say that Black Panther is an excellent movie, almost as good as the sequel, the aptly titled Wakanda Forever. Although the film is not perfect. For instance, Wakanda is depicted as a vast utopia that has been able to thrive due to their border walls, and as we all know, walls are evil.
Sure. But back to the topic at hand. Some legal scholars are saying this dissent is even more powerful than her last when she said, Brett Kavanaugh has a stupid dummy face and also he is ugly. Your thoughts?
Well, I have several thoughts on the matter. Here's one. Killmonger was the real hero of the story. You know, he was attempting to liberate the oppressed through revolutionary global redistribution of Wakandan technology. Isn't that what we're all about? Plus, he was really handsome. You know, come to think of it, this movie was really miscast. I love Chadwick Boseman, may he rest in peace, but Michael B. Jordan is a national treasure. Have you seen Fantastic Four?
Oh, no. No, I haven't. I mean, is it good?
Is it good? Cancel your plans tonight. We're watching Fantastic Four.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hey, Tim, you mind filling in on the desk, please? I got somewhere to be.
What? I'm just a camera guy.
Yeah, I don't care, okay? Because I make more money than you, and you're going to do what I say.
Okay, so I just sit here and I've seen him doing it a million times. What do I do? So you look at the camera, you just read. Okay. Coming up next, Gavin Newsom sues Gavin Newsom for ruining his political career.
I've been a United States Marine, a police officer for 15 years, been a Special Forces Green Beret. I never met fear until I came to Ukraine.
Many evangelical churches absolutely destroyed.
The devil knew exactly how to attack.
Once I came to Ukraine and saw what's going on here, this is good versus evil.
Russian forces are closing churches and persecuting Christians.
All across Russian-occupied Ukraine, soldiers are shutting down places of worship.
Vladimir Putin not only wants to control Ukrainian territory, he also intends to silence the church and take away religious freedom.
The soldiers came to church, they stopped worship service, they arrested me, they searched my home.
Вони почали перевіряти документи у кожної людини. Вони виливали чоловіка водою, били шокером.
They destroyed many hundreds church.
Євангельські, особливо церкви.
If people knew about what was really happening, that Russia is torturing and murdering Ukrainian Christians for their faith, it is a war crime.
Why does Russia hate evangelical Christians?
They're afraid. Our churches never want to be under government, under communistic party, under KGB, under dictatorship regime. Russia persecute evangelicals because we have just one leader, it's Jesus Christ.
Wow.
An American who is far removed from the war may not think that it matters who wins or loses in Ukraine. But we see evil happening, and we don't want that evil to triumph.
America's role, the Christian role in this struggle, is so critical.
We come to minister to them, to see them, to listen to them.
I'm not here on behalf of the United States government. I'm just a faithful servant of Jesus Christ coming to support you and be alongside of you.
The faith of the people of Ukraine is absolutely amazing.
Да, церква продовжується.
They're rebuilding their cities, they're rebuilding their lives and their churches.
І коли навіть ти щось будуєш, ти не знаєш, чи завтра воно буде знищено вже.
це будівництво дало людям віру.
We have a duty to these folks that are on the front lines defending religious freedom.
This is an audio Bible. You come get one too. The Bible says that what's right and wrong is written on your heart. And so if you know that there's something you can do to affect change, save lives, then just do it.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. ThatKevinShow.com. That Kevin Show, all social media. ThatKevinShow@gmail.com. If you want to send me a note, always glad to read it personally. I don't pawn that off on staff. They have plenty of other things to do. I'm very interested in this next conversation because, as you have watched over the last 3 years now, since the invasion of Ukraine, President Putin has faced a series of challenges. What should he do by way of his invasion? Should he withdraw completely? Should he have, as a piece of the settlement, a sliver of what he has taken? There are lots of different opinions about this, including out of the White House and those at the State Department. But my next two guests are approaching this subject from a completely different matter that I hope the elected leaders will also take into consideration as these things are being discussed going forward. Stephen Moore is the former House GOP Chief of Staff for former Congressman Pete Roskam out of Illinois, and Colby Barrett, a U.S. Marine veteran, entrepreneur, and both of them are producers of a new film called Faith Under Siege, a Faith Under Siege, faithundersiege.com to find out more about it. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Colby, former Marine, and I guess once Marine, always Marine, but you've seen war, you've seen the underbelly of violence. Why did you produce this film? What's the aim of it? What message are you trying to get across?
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for having us on and bringing attention and prayer to this important issue. I have, previous to this last summer, I had no connection to Ukraine. I don't have a Ukrainian heritage. I've never been there. I really felt called by the Holy Spirit to go out there and tell these stories. Once I was hearing about what was happening, 650 churches destroyed by Russia, 49 priests and pastors murdered, 2.5 million Christians not able to worship freely in the Russian-occupied territory. I really felt called to go over there to bring aid and also to tell this story, especially to American Christians, because there's just so much information and misinformation coming out that to hear firsthand stories from people that worship God just like they do, I thought was really important to get that information directly to an American audience.
One of the things that I heard about, Stephen, right after the invasion were the gathering of Christians in the subway tubes in Kyiv, singing, and they hit YouTube and Instagram and other places, but these passages of Christians singing worship songs, having prayer meetings, sometimes in complete darkness underground in these places. There is a more vibrant Christian community in Ukraine than I think a lot of people may be aware of. You were talking about specifically before we were on the air, the population, that 2.5 million that are in Russian-controlled regions right now. What is their day-to-day existence?
Well, it's miserable. And it's miserable for everyone. But if you're a Christian, particularly if you're an evangelical Christian, you're being targeted by the Russians. And let me tell you a little bit more about that. There are 2.5 million Christians living under Russian control. And Vladimir Putin has shut down every church in occupied Ukraine. And, we know someone who is in prison, in a Russian prison, for 20 years because she had a Bible study in her home, and that was illegal. And so they put her in prison. And again, this is an occupied Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is doing this to Christians. And if you look at the statistics, and listen, I'm a public opinion guy. I love statistics. And so there's 49 faith leaders who have been murdered by the Russians. And I'm talking, Orthodox priests, Catholic priests, Christian pastors, rabbis, and half of them, nearly half of them, 47%, are evangelical Christians, because Putin doesn't understand Christianity, because, his view is the state is supreme. And so you can't control free people who answer only to God.
Yeah.
And so he comes into these places and shuts down the churches.
This is very difficult, because he doesn't even enforce that level of command inside of Russia. So to be kind of using the old USSR tactics of, the state controlling everything that the Christian does is like, this is really, it's much worse than people have been told about. And Colby, I think that's one of the reasons why you guys had to make this film. Talk about the context of the film. Who did you interview? It's documentary style. It's very moving. I'm going to play the trailer during the show today. But what I would like to have people understand is these are people going through it that are actually in the film.
Yeah, Kevin, I would point out that level of religious repression inside Russia is pretty hardcore as well. So in 2016, Russia passed a series of laws called the Yerovaya laws, which made it illegal to preach the gospel without a permit in a registered church. So if I sit next to you on a park bench and say, Jesus saved my life, that can get me put in jail in Russia. And those laws are disproportionately enforced against Baptists and Protestants inside Russia. Those laws
it's because
also
the gospel
apply.
is such a threat to totalitarianism.
It is. That's exactly it. If you look at our authoritarian regimes throughout history, faith is the most disruptive thing to an authoritarian regime, because those people, they answer to a higher power. You can't scare them. You can't force them to do things that are immoral, because they answer to God. And so that's one of the first things in the authoritarian playbook is control religion, but destroy faith. And that's what you see in Russia. If you looked, 70% would say they're Christian, but weekly church attendance is 3%. Right. So there's been a success there of controlling religion and destroying faith. And that's what happens in Ukraine. As you pointed out, the best way to get this information out there isn't more, people like me and Stephen saying, what's going on there. The best way to do it is firsthand accounts of people that have lived through this. So we've talked to fathers, evangelical fathers, who lost their entire families when Iranian Shahed drones were fired by Russia into their apartment building. We heard from them firsthand. One of the individuals we talked to had lost his entire family 16 days before we talked to him. The amount of pain there is just intense. And then, pastors that had been tortured, pastors that were running orphanages where all of their children were forcibly abducted by Russia and taken into either Russia or the occupied territories. Just terrible stories. But that was our whole approach, is you don't need to hear what I think about Ukraine. There's enough American commentators talking about that. Let's hear from Christians that have lived through this and can talk about it firsthand.
Well, and in
That's
fairness,
really the best kind of truth.
the commentariat has not told this part of the story at all. So I do think your voices are important, and I do appreciate the fact that you're speaking out even at this time. I pray for our president every day that he will use wisdom in how this is negotiated going forward, because there are people whose lives do hang in the balance. And I know that he doesn't wish for any of the killing to continue. And I'm hopeful that even with the Iran strike, that there's some degree of awareness in Putin's mind now that America is not who they used to be, and it is important that human rights are observed, particularly those that embody their belief in Jesus and in God himself.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square, and on this spectacular weekend, thank you for being here and for spending part of your time with us. I never take it for granted. And it's kind of like this contest that we're running right now across the Salem network. I would like to say thank you to you for all of the wonderful things that you've done for me. And you could win a chance to come to New York on my dime and see the city and come see the show and maybe even have dinner with me. We would love to make this possible. If you go to thatkevinshow.com or if you go to thatpassportlife.com, you'll see a way that you can enter and vote for me. You'll see this little thing that says win an experience with your favorite talker, and I would be very grateful for your votes regardless. If you've not signed up yet for the newsletter, by the way, you can do that as well at thatkevinshow.com. And on the contest, you can enter every single day up through August 17th. On August 17th, we cut it all off, and then we draw the name, and you could potentially win a 3-night stay, airfare included, and a $500 Visa card by just entering the Talkers contest. So I would be deeply grateful if you would do that, and very, very much unexpected in terms of the graciousness that you always pour out. But I do want to say thank you for one other thing. We have now, because of your steadiness and faithfulness, we have now crossed the 51 slave liberation mark in our drive towards 208 slaves to be liberated this year. And this is especially important, and not for me and not for you. It's especially important for the women that we are rescuing from these heinous circumstances where they have been stripped of all dignity and all privacy and all of the many other things that you cherish when you have a life that you get to live under your own determination. But these women lost that right a long time ago. And your gift of $250 not only sets them free, more importantly, it gives them everything they need to return to their life and to start over again through our friends at Christian Solidarity International. That $250, it's supplying food for a year, it's supplying grain for another year beyond that, it's supplying utensils for them to cook, clean, and fish with, it's supplying a little she-goat that she can use to harvest milk and cheese, and then also breed so that she can have a little source of micro-enterprise. And I'd be so grateful if you dial 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010, and join us.
My name is Nanya Newt. I was about 15 years old when I was captured. My mom had spent the last few days teaching me all about what it meant to be a good wife and a mom, showing me how to cook and sew. She had hoped I would get married in the future. One day I was out collecting firewood, and that was when the Arabs found me and captured me and took me to Sudan without the chance to tell my family goodbye. It took me many days to walk the complete journey. They gave us boiled sorghum as we went, and the men that had been captured with us faced grave dangers. They were considered to be spies, and most of them were killed right in front of us. Upon arrival in the north, I was sold to a master in Miriam village, and then I was sold almost as quickly to another Arab in McCullough Gate. He made me work for his family, sweeping the compound and washing the dishes. They worked me long and terrible hours, pounding sorghum, fetching water. And then they said in order to be a good Muslim woman, I would need to be circumcised. I was held down as it happened, and then I was forced to marry. Against my will, they forced me to work even when I was sick. If I did anything that made them angry, they would beat me. My master never bought me any clothes, never paid me for any of my work, and barely ever fed me. Then one day, I heard about a CSI retriever, and I ran to find them in the town. As it turned out, they were freeing slaves in my region, and they had not known about me. But I think God allowed me to find them because they brought me home. We walked that same journey back to South Sudan. And today I thank God because I am free. I thank the Arab Retriever because he helped. I thank CSI and for those who gave. I cannot thank those of you who gave money to help us become free ever enough in all of my life. But I do hope that my prayer is answered, that we will not stop until they are all free.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
It's oilfacts.com, my friend. Oilfacts.com is where you go to join the movement that helps the poorest in the world begin to flourish. It helps the cost of energy for the American family to come down. It helps begin to correct so many different wrongs when you understand the importance, the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the cleanliness of fossil fuels. Don't be fossil fooled. Go to oilfacts.com and get smart about all things related to what oil and gas and the hydrocarbons really do. It is powered by Prairie Operating Company, and its CEO is Ed Kovalik, who rejoins us. Ed, for those watching on BizTV and Salem News Channel, you have a very cool looking backdrop to you. This is actually from one of your Colorado locations. In fact, I think I might know the guy that took that picture. You flew me out amongst other people that were interested in understanding more. If people were to go to a site where where Prairie was operating, what would they see? And how would it be different than what we've been told we would see?
Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like a massive open strip mine kicking up dust and dirt and debris all over the place. It's a really high-tech, innovative operation. That rig that you see behind me is really an AI-driven robot. If you think about the precision with which it operates, we're drilling down about a mile, and then we're drilling horizontally out 2 to 4 miles to drill a well. And as we do that, we're controlling that drill bit to a very accurate level. So, we're optimizing staying in the zone of rock that we want to be in. And so it's really, really neat technology. No matter how many times I see it working, I'm always mesmerized by it. And so after this rig is finished drilling the wells on location, we go in and fracture those wells, hydraulically fracture those wells very quickly and efficiently. We typically occupy a location like this for a couple of months at a time, and then we leave. And when we're gone, all you'll see left here behind me is essentially some plumbing with some meters and some tanks, and you'll never know that there were hundreds of people on location drilling out all of these wells beforehand. So we really leave a very clean footprint when we're done.
Yeah. You've been doing a lot of media recently, and you've joked, and I cracked up every time I heard it, but that you have a lot of farms around your sites in the DJ Basin, and you think they may be bigger carbon polluters than you guys are.
Well, I can tell you it's a fact. It's another fun fact because, we monitor the air all around us for emissions, and the emissions from dairy farms around us are actually greater than our operations. So I'm proud of that. And no, I'm not a proponent of shutting down dairy farms. I love dairy and I love cattle and beef. I think it's great.
What's for dinner.
It just puts it into context.
Yeah. Well, and I just love the fact that if you wanted to, you could do a bumper sticker that said oil cleaner than cow farts. And, you wouldn't be lying. I think it would be hilarious. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit more about Prairie. As an entity, you guys have taken a lot of risk. You've said we are not only just going to drill domestically and be underlevered and do all the things that we can do to be financially accountable and responsible, but then you've backed this oilfacts.com idea to the degree where even other energy CEOs have come to you and said, wow, thank you. Someone's out there telling the truth. And it's not like they didn't have the chance to do the same thing. Anybody could, but you took on the onus of saying, I want to do that. I want to make sure that people know the facts, know the truth, even if it's unpopular, even if it's politically less expedient under one administration, more so under another. You're not afraid to be the CEO that just says fossil fuels are good for us. Why is that important to you? Why is that something that you're passionate about?
Well, again, I'm passionate about what I do because I think energy underpins everything that we rely on to live a flourishing life. And so I think it's really dangerous to spread misinformation about energy because God forbid some of these wacky policies are enacted, and God forbid, we actually are forced to lower fossil fuel production in this country. I mean, I think that the damage done to society would be irreparable. So I really felt that nobody had come out and educated the public on these facts beforehand, and really felt a passion and a need to do that. So here we are, and we're completely unapologetic about it. We're proud to supply much needed energy for the country, and we think that that's really our patriotic duty, and it happens to align perfectly well with capitalism as well.
What's been the response?
The response is tremendous. We get a lot of reactions really reflecting that people don't know any of these things. They've been sold a whole bunch of lies around fossil fuels being disproportionate polluters, about how we can actually transition on our energy systems. And so when I tell people things like, the number of deaths have decreased 98% over the last century as a result of fossil fuels, or other fun facts, people are just shocked to hear these things because they've never been educated about these things. So we're having fun doing that, Kevin.
Well, and we've been deeply immersed in the propaganda, and I would call it that, propaganda from the other side. I mean, if you're a geologist and you're at a major university and you just tell the truth about some of this stuff, there's pressure on you, and somebody's got to be the face for truth on all of this. And what I love about Prairie, and I've had a chance to get to know not just you, but some of the other managers of the company, is that you guys are people of integrity. You work really hard. You're doing everything you can to make the world better. And the fact that you even call your operation Team Flourishing, like Team Human Flourishing, it's the idea that you don't want to leave anybody behind. Everybody deserves a chance at a better life, and in the third world especially. And we'll talk about this on an upcoming discussion soon, I'm sure.
Ready or not, we'll be right back.